Government has assured social grant beneficiaries that they will not be compromised again by late payments come next month. This after thousands of grant beneficiaries were left financially crippled and frustrated countrywide due to technical glitches. Government held a follow-up briefing after last week's joint media address in Pretoria on the delays of payments of social grants nationally.
Minister of Social Development Lindiwe Zulu, who SASSA, the social grant agency, falls under, didn't attend the briefing. She apparently was in transit on a flight, but the communications minister held the fort as the post bank that's at the center of the delayed grant payment challenges report to his department.
I repeat, Lindiwe Zulu, a no-show, surely, that's unacceptable. It's totally unacceptable. And the other thing, by the way, I think I must say this, CEO, Lindiwe Zulu is not administering these payments. It's my department and its entities that is dealing with this. And I'm prepared to take the flag for this.
Millions of grant beneficiaries were affected by the so-called post-bank payment switch, which failed to automatically reverse money from declined transactions. Despite reports that some still struggle to access their money, government is adamant that all systemic challenges have been resolved and that grants are being paid.
Postbank has provided us with assurance that, according to their records, all SASSA grant beneficiaries whose accounts were adversely affected by the system challenges on the 5th and 6th of September have now been corrected. That applies to post-bank clients. These funds are readily available in the accounts of these beneficiaries, and if not withdrawn, can be accessed through bank ATMs, retailers, and post office branches. We also would like to make beneficiaries aware that once their money is paid into their post-bank account, they can access the money at any time convenient to them.
The minister also assured beneficiaries that the changes at the post bank will not affect them next month. More than 5 million beneficiaries receive their money through the post bank. The post bank gave assurance to improve the system and prevent similar challenges.
We have taken some capabilities from different vendors to ensure that there's checks and balances so that one doesn't have through capabilities of our systems. So we've done a lot, but there's still a lot to be done.
The team also gave clarity on ongoing investigations into fraud with millions that's still being investigated, including a KPMG report. The minister reiterated that the Postbank board that resigned last week didn't benefit the bank and compromise its integrity. Meanwhile, they gave another guarantee that government is trying their level best to improve the Postbank, make it world-class and flush out any challenges that will hamper the payment of social grants. Patricia Fasagi, SABC News in Pretoria.
Now, government says all SASSA beneficiaries utilising Postbank for their grants have been successfully paid. This follows a technical glitch earlier this month. Communications and Digital Technologies Minister Mondli Gungubele joins us now with the very latest. Minister, good morning and thank you very much for your time. So yesterday, indeed, you did inform the public that all Postbank grant beneficiaries had been paid. We watched that briefing. There were journalists that disputed this fact. Post that briefing, is there any additional information that is now at your disposal in just so far as those payments are concerned?
No, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to your viewership. To date, post banks still stand by the submission they made yesterday.
Right.
That those matters stay resolved. Mm-hmm. Now, even the queries, it was not all journalists, by the way, it was just NCA that was actually querying this. They gave us people who, what happened in Puenteville, a post office which we were advised was closed long time ago as early as February. So now as people went to a post office who was not going to sell them anyway. But it's a post office issue, not necessarily a post bank issue. Even in lands, we have been advised that that's not a post bank issue. it remains a post office issue. To date, what we know is that out of 25 queries that have been submitted to our call center, 5 have been successfully resolved with different banks, which has got nothing to do with the post bank, and 13 are still on a course of being resolved with respective banks, which is not post bank. And then, otherwise, other people who might have actually made a call to the call center. Others are those who may have been trying to give an impression that their issues were not resolved. All those have been demonstrated that they were resolved. Up until today, there is no new, no new report, and I'm planning to visit some post office next week in this regard after the long weekend. But in terms of the post bank, nothing new. Of course, post office issues are government issues. As you know, that the post office is under business rescue. So it's going through the most difficult time. And the stabilization of the post office, we await the business rescue practitioners presenting a rescue plan, because a rescue plan is about how do you turn around the situation and improve the post office. We also accept those as government problem also, because the matter here that we've been dealing with is the post bank.
Mm-hmm. But broadly speaking, this particular matter has been very, very painful on the most vulnerable in society. So what measures are being put in place to prevent such a technical glitch in future?
Already, as I've said, ma'am, it has been resolved. So in other words, in as far as post bank is concerned, clients are not subjected to that. Are we sitting and satisfied? No. A lot of interventions to actually ensure that the solution lasts, those interventions are being done. It includes even partnering with other financial institutions in that regard. A pronouncement of the proper and the lasting solution will come at a relevant stage. But as we speak now, our people from the post bank, our records are not subjected to what they were subjected to between the 5th and the 6th of September.
Minister, when listening to your briefing yesterday, you also spoke about certain elements or individuals that sought to hijack this particular issue for personal gain. Who were you referring to?
We were referring to a lot of people who actually use people who are hurting, use their grievances to misrepresent what people are worried about. Generally, that's the category of people, where people would come and say, so many people are affected by this. And when you go there, you find that those are not the post-bank people. But those people are making this a strong, let me just make another example. For instance, if you checked yesterday, one media house, we presented in the press conference, and one media house we said the Minister of Social Development is flying out of the country. Yes. As a result, she was not going to be able to attend. And we agreed that I'm going to be the one. And one media house, as we were doing the briefing, that media house said, Minister Zulu is no show. And one other critical issue, ma'am, is that I thought I want to make this point again. I think Minister Zulu has been lambasted unfairly, because my department is the department that runs institutions that deal with the payment. Minister Zulu is a client.
But she is in charge of the SASSA element of things. And I just want to at least compartmentalize this. Minister, can we just first start with the aspect where you say you took exception to the statement that she was a no-show? But if she physically isn't present, how would it have been phrased better?
The list, when you say, ma'am, no-show, full stop, you are saying she's a wool. She has run away from work. But if you say she's not here because she's flying, the statement is different. If it was left like that, the headline was going to be saying she ran away from accountability. It's as straightforward as that.
Mm-hmm. And then now on the other aspect, you're saying that when it comes to Postbank, it is fully something that is within your competency, and you believe that her being present at that briefing would have been immaterial because CEOs were there?
No. The reason we are working together, she's a client and we are providing the service. It is always useful that not all questions with regard to social grant beneficiaries can be answered by us as what we call as a service provider. Some questions, because those beneficiaries are her beneficiaries, but being serviced from payment point of view by us. But a lot of questions, there's a series of different questions which can be answered by both of us. It's always important also as government entities, as government institutions, to demonstrate unity in resolving these matters.
Mm-hmm. I want to take you back to just that aspect of perhaps other groupings or elements using these individuals that hadn't gotten their grants paid. You have apologized on numerous occasions, one assumes, because you appreciate what these most vulnerable in society would have gone through, because month end mostly comes for some with already food no longer being in your grocery cupboards. So would you say it was those elements or organizations using these individual struggles, or really it was legitimate, they were empathetic?
Well, you don't practice empathy by lying, ma'am. You don't misrepresent facts. You don't express empathy by misrepresenting facts. We said yesterday, I think you were represented there. Yes. We said we appreciate all those who intervene, those who show our gaps, because we want those gaps to be resolved. So whoever has an information that shows that we're not doing our work properly, there are deficits, those we appreciate. We said it several times yesterday, but we were saying, against that background, those who misrepresent facts are a problem. They are actually making vulnerable people an object of politics. I include DA in that regard.
Mm-hmm. And then to the false narratives around the expired cards, you touched on that particular aspect, saying that, in fact, there has now been an extension of those expired cards until December. Talk to us about this.
Again, there was a misrepresentation that this glitch is about those cards. We wanted to clarify yesterday that it's not about those cards. Those cards are still functioning until December, depending on what the situation is December. But the guarantee is that whatever happens in December, social grant beneficiaries will continue to receive their money. So people were saying this is a crisis of cards, which is not true.
Mm-hmm. And then on the board itself, you took time to also stress that the instability within the board has no great impact on the day-to-day running of the Postbank. But can you take us into your confidence on the pace or how far you are into perhaps filling those vacancies?
Thank you very much, ma'am. And maybe this gives me an opportunity again to restate that. Because there was one journalist who said yesterday, this has got nothing to do with the board that has just left. We wanted to emphasize again, that board, in particular before reinforcement in October, has run a Postbank under disclaimer for 3 years. Having said that, it is that board that continued with an illegal contract, and we can list issues. It is under that board that fake accounts which led to more than 100 million actually got out of the system in an illicit manner. But let me answer then your question. If you remember, on the interview we had last week, we said, today we expect an advert to go out. Indeed, an advert went out on the very day we were doing a press conference. I kept on saying my biggest prayer is that, having consulted with Reserve Bank, with the Department of Treasury, who are critical in assisting us to get the appropriate skills, we hope in a month, and the worst could be 2 months, there will be a new board.
And then Kayaletu Ngema is the administrator now. Talk us through perhaps his statutory powers as well as limitations. If we've got an administrator now, what does that mean exactly?
Thank you, ma'am. The Kaya Ngema is in a state of a board. The powers, the decisions that board will take, he becomes an accounting authority now until the board comes.
So meaning at this point, the Post Bank is in a position that come next month, you would be able to pay without any glitches. That is a commitment that you can make to citizens.
That is the biggest prayer. We have stabilized the system. We pray that the system stays the way it is. It is our greatest intention that this thing must not happen again.
And then just lastly, the DA has in fact lodged a complaint with the South African Human Rights Commission, and they do believe that this was a human rights violation. How do you plan to tackle or respond to that matter?
We are, I've been advised that our teams will be meeting the Human Rights Commission to present the case to human rights. We're trying to avoid talking to human rights because DA has placed us there. We think the human rights is entitled to know what has happened. And of course, once they have heard what happened, we will respect their view on that.
All right. Minister, thank you very much for your time. That was Communications and Digital Technology Minister Mondli Gungubele. More news on the other side of this break. Stay with us.